So after the recent patch, came some new handheld weapons, and today I'll go over the meta for suction, hard floor, carpet, cleaning, and in-game support in order to optimize your perfect build against low, medium, and high-level enemies, and with the 7 most popular weapons, 3 being Dysons, and not to mention, none of this is sponsored, because the first place is the Dyson Outsized, with high burst and sustained damage, but also the highest gold. But the enemies did have a terrain buff, preventing a full clear from all the weapons, and that's why the second place is Dyson V11. Good DPS, but less burst, and then there's the V8, reliable but not game-changing. Next is followed by Samson and Levoit, decent but lacking base damage. Now we have the Shark Red and Blue. Even with the terrain debuff, their low damage output and increased clear time are inexcusable, a result of the devs nerfing their head design. Because when you compare the Shark versus the Dyson design, it has many more openings than the Dyson head, which means the Dyson will be less effective as the mobs level up or increase in numbers. Now against mid-tier enemies, Dyson outsized DPS stays overpowered, showcasing its versatility. But surprisingly, Shark Blue and Red got a serious buff against mid-level enemies, providing a much higher damage. Levoit holds steady at the intermediate tier, but Dyson V8 and V11 falls off mid-game, with V8 showing slightly better adaptability. Why was there such a big difference between the Dysons? Well, the V8 and V11 share the same head with 5 openings, while the outsize has 4, but with an extra 2 that can be adjusted to increase raw power. Samson, however, proves that having mid power while getting counterpicked results in a bad time. In boss battles, the Dyson outsize is still the top dog, outclassing all the other ones by miles. But how? It has a bigger motor, but that doesn't mean it has more power, right? Right? Spoilers. It does. Anyways, Levoit surprisingly came second. But why? It uses guide railings to funnel enemies to a single choke point like tower defense players, followed by Dyson V11 and then V8, maintaining high DPS and durability for endgame content. Next is Shark Red, best for mid-game enemies but only decent against everything else. But that's nothing compared to Samson, which seems like it's weak against all enemy types. But that's not true, because the Samson came with a different loadout, and when we did the test with that attachment, it did much better, because this type of weapon head has increased damage for hard floor terrain. Besides, you can also upgrade to this attachment for other weapons like the Dyson. And finally, Shark Blue coming in after Shark Red. Now let's see how they all do with side edging. Dyson outsize dominates yet again with the other Dysons right behind it, very close to a full clear. Samson nearly aced the level, but a blind spot in its wheels left some enemies behind, while Levoit struggles for the same issue, but that's nothing against the Sharks. They had the toughest time clearing the level, with Shark Blue lagging the most. Why? Aren't they the same class? They look alike, but the Shark Red has a flap on its rollers while the Shark Blue doesn't, which buffs the damage on hard floors. And for the mid-tier, no surprise, Dyson outsized tops the leaderboard once again, followed by Dyson V8 and Shark Red. The other Shark lags way behind in 6th place, despite being specialized for these enemy types. Disappointing. Then comes Dyson V11, Levoit, and Samson to bring up the rear. Here come the bosses, and again, no one could full clear, but what is clear is Dyson outsize remaining the undisputed king. It clears to S rank. The 2 Sharks came next with Red and then Blue, thanks to his multi-open head design. So B- for Shark Red and D for Shark Blue. That's quite the gap. Next is the 2 Dysons, with the V8 beating V11 versus bosses, but for the side edging in total, they excelled in slightly different areas, but overall very similar. And because there was such a gap in points, both Dyson drops to B rank and no A rank weapons. And also, the EXP is not a gimmick or random, it's based on their rankings at the end. Levoit came 6th this round with 16 points for side edging, which is average when it comes to damage, so it goes in C tier. And lastly, but also last, Samson with 18 points this round, and also last with combined points. It's very disappointing, but we haven't seen its true potential just yet. For now, it's in D-. And now we're gonna find out objectively which weapon is the most versatile. For example, Samsung has a toggle mechanism which is better than Dyson's hold to use trigger. Removable battery system, so if the battery dies, you don't need to replace this whole thing. Air filters that works against a fog machine, but needing to take off the whole bin just to empty is a downgrade. 2 points. Quick release rollers for cleaning, but lacks any roller lighting guidance system, so 2 points. It has attachment, which should be 1 point, but because these are more versatile than the Meta, 0 points. And it also adds an extra hard floor head to the loadout, which is significant. And now we move on to the specs, which are 6.2 pounds, third overall. 5th for battery on max DPS, which is 6 minutes and 9 seconds, and 0.84 quarts of inventory space, which is 2nd. And the last one is head weight, because the lower the weight, the higher the maneuverability with the attachments. And that was 3.06 pounds, coming in first, putting it in S- rank. So hopefully that all makes sense, and so we can move on to Shark Blue. Slide to power, but you do need to hold it for max DPS, which most players use exclusively, so no removable batteries, and spoilers, this is the only air filter to fail the fog test. And when we look inside, it's just a cloth filter versus Shark's HEPA filter. Easy to empty, but you do need a screwdriver to remove the rollers by unlocking the 3 pins, and that's it. They are not detachable. I'll give 3 points for how stupid this design is. It does have passive roller lights and attachments. The weight is 7.6 pounds, which is 5th, 2nd for stamina at 13 minutes and 8 seconds, and 0.34 quarts, which came in 6th, and 3rd for head weight, which is tied with the V8 at 3.44 pounds, last place. And that's why it's going straight to D. Now, onto the other Shark, Shark Red. It has the same power mechanics, but it does have a removable battery this time, air filters that actually work, and easy to empty, but again, you can't remove the rollers. Passive roller lights and a slightly different attachment set, 10 points. And the weight is 7.94 pounds, which is 6th, 13 minutes and 8 seconds, tied with Shark Blue, 6th for inventory space, and 3.62 pounds, which is 4th for head. It tied with Shark Blue in capacity and battery life, but it carries a heavier loadout, so it's going into C. Levoit with click power activation, modular battery system, working air filters, easy to empty, passive lights, and attachments. It is acing all the categories so far, and with a new category extras, because many market the ability of self-standing like the Sharks, but you can't unless you detach the head, while Levoit can. Great for breaks mid-match or storage, and it's 3.2 pounds, which is first, number 1 on game time, and 0.79 quarts of inventory, which is 4th, and coming in 2nd for the head weights. That's crazy, and that's why it's going straight to S tier. And now for the Dysons. I'll just do all 3 and note the differences. They all have hold to power activation, all have detachable battery except the V8, which is a major drawback, since having an extra battery can effectively double your playtime. They all have great air filters, which increase from V8 to outsized. All are slide to empty, but V8 is a pull then dump. V8 and V11 needs a flat head to remove the rollers, but outsized does not. None have roller lights, and all have attachments that come with a useful hair detangling furniture attachment. Now for the extras. All Dyson rollers have ball rotational tech, which increases mobility. Auto mode, which adjusts speed to increase playtime, but you do need the torque head in order to use it. And only the outside has adjustable openings for high level enemies, wider rollers for more area of effect damage, and a plastic suction pad for enhanced power. For the weight, V8 was 2nd with 5.58 pounds, V11 was 4th, and 7.98 pounds with outsized. For stamina, V8 was 4th with 8 minutes and 49 seconds. V11 was 3rd and outsized was 6th. While on the topic, I thought I was going crazy because the timer kept saying one thing while my test was showing different things, but turns out the battery indicator is not accurate for any of the Dysons. Now for inventory, V8 in 5th, V11 in 3rd with 0.8 quarts, and outsized in 1st with 2 quarts, so more than double the second place. And now the best Dyson for the features is the Dyson V11, putting it in B tier. And second best is a tie with the Dysons. They both excelled in different areas, so choose according to your class. B for both. On this map, I combined the front and side edging, and the first surprise is Samsung's underdog story. Last in the hard floor, but now the unexpected champion, with a full clear on side edging but a little bit left in front, followed by Shark Blue, and then the Dyson Outsized, the former king, falling to 4th place. Dyson V11 and V8 follows, with V11 having a slightly higher head-on damage, and now Levoit following very closely behind, with the bottom 4 being pretty close to each other. And when we look at the weapon design, we see the Samsung, although has fewer openings, it was also lower to the terrain than the Dyson, creating more power. But the Sharks aren't low, and the openings should nerf the DPS by quite a bit, so why? We'll find out in just a bit. Samsung once again dominates the competition but failing to get a full clear, while the Dyson Outsize comes back strong, showcasing its damage buff to higher level enemies. Then Shark Blue doing better in front edging but worst in side edging, followed by Levoit and Dyson V8 from their lack of raw power, with side or front edging. And finally Shark Red, a much bigger gap between the Sharks this time. And the big surprise is Dyson V11, putting doubt on how viable pay to win is on this map. Even against bosses, Samsung manages to almost full clear, with Shark Blue and Dyson Outsize following. So we know why the Dyson Outsize and the Samsung has such high DPS, but how is the Shark so strong? It's thanks to its brushes, which are the hardest out of all the weapons. Levoit and Shark Red put up a decent fight, 4th and 6th this round, and tied for 4th overall. And now a fall from grace, with Dyson V8 in 6th overall and 7th for V11. What happened? Well, when you compare it to the Dyson Outsized, V8 and V11 has softer brushes, one extra opening, and lacking the plastic suction pad on the Outsized. But spoilers, the V11 has higher suction power, so how did the V8 do better? It's thanks to the brushes. This very slight difference was able to increase the DPS by that much, showing us the meta for this map is a tightly sealed head and hard brushes. Next, I gave the enemies a buff by letting them have some cover. Unsurprisingly, Dyson Outsized, the V8, V11, and Samsung came first. And because of that, Shark Red came before Shark Blue, which is quite the reversal, suggesting maybe harder brushes decrease overall power? No, because when we look, the Shark Blue's brush has a thinner diameter, is taking up more space and increasing pressure, and thus increasing raw power. And with the mid-tier enemies, there was really no difference, which reminds us that all these are generally good weapons. Now for bosses, and again, there isn't much difference. Dyson Outsize, V11, Samsung, Shark Blue, and Levoit made a full clear, and only Shark Red and Dyson V8 left 1 or 2 enemies. The underdog, who performed just as well as the Dyson Outsize did on the hard floor map, deserving of S tier. The Dyson Outsize and Shark Blue belongs in A and A-. Dyson V8, Shark Red, Levoit all go to C tier. And lastly, the Dyson V11, going into C-. The key to understanding the DPS of each weapon is by measuring the suction. And we'll check both the head and the base, as the base affects the DPS of other attachments. Since they are pretty similar, these are the roller stats for Shark Blue and Red. With these being the average, Shark Blue had a slightly higher power output, but not by much, and Levoit being the lowest with 3.28, and we can see why when all 3 modes were only this fast. But Samsung gave a nice surprise, being the highest out of all the non-Dyson weapons, with the average being 3.8, but all the Dyson models had higher damage output, and this is all the speeds for V8 and then V11, and lastly Outsize, with it being the highest. And now for the base speed, and it's not a surprise, but Levoit was last again with 3.4, and these are the numbers. Slight increase from the roller speed, but not by much, followed by the 2 Sharks with these values, and these are the speeds. Slight difference, but probably just errors in my testing. The next highest is actually the Dyson V8, and when we look at the number against the Samsung, that's quite a big difference. What happened? Initially, I thought it was the sheer girth of the Samsung handle creating less pressure, but the inside diameter is similar, so it might be the hinge parts, or maybe leaking out air pressure while the Dyson hinge has a better seal at the base. And these are the numbers for both models for base speed, and no one is surprised with Dyson V11 being the second and Dyson outsized being the first. And these are the numbers for both models. At least now we know higher gold does give you higher power levels. And in last place, no one's surprised, Levoit with 3.28, and that deserves the D rank. Next, we have a tie with both the Sharks being the same, which does make sense. They are similar models with the big difference in roller design. Both are going in C tier. Next, in a major upset, we have the Dyson V8, which means the Samsung beats it out by just 0.17. And now we see why Samsung was such an underdog in the carpet map. For now, Samsung goes to B and Dyson V8 goes to B-. V11 in second and outsized in first by quite a bit too. So a bigger motor does equal higher DPS, but we'll see later on why this will be a negative. But regardless, V11 in A and outsized in S. You might like your weapon, but you need to know the in-game support has got your back. And so do I, because I did it for you. I messaged each with missing attachments or damaged parts. Help! First up is the Dysons. The queue took 1 minute and took me 9 messages only with the bot and then 6 more with the live assistant. So there was some hassle, and at the end they just told me to go to Amazon and didn't help. It's going in C. And now Shark to waste my time because I was sitting in queue for 16 minutes. I was 4th in queue, but at the end they said there was no live assistance available. Oh, maybe that was an error or a mistake. So I tried 3 different days, all with at least 10 minutes of waiting and nothing. But it was a different story for email support. It took 2 follow-up emails. One was me confirming my address. Second was confirming which attachments were missing. And before I could tell them it's just a prank, the replacement order had been sent. And this will be an A. Levoit was my favorite because it only took them 1 day to reply and with the least hassle. I wrote the initial support ticket and that was all they needed to exchange the damaged parts. Going to S rank. Samsung, where do I even start? There's a talk to experts chat. Do you get to talk to an expert? No. They open a window to a chat smart bot, which was useless because you need the customer care virtual assistant. Totally different things. After 14 messages, then they tell me to go to Samsung Canada, and then after another 9 messages, they just told me they couldn't help me. And it was because I got it from Amazon. It was still within the 30-day return period, but they could have still helped me. Shark did. Whatever. It's going in D, and this is the final rankings. And now for the annoying part that everybody hates. Cleaning the weapon after finishing the round. And I have 5 important factors. 1 point for being good, 2 points for bad, and the lower the points, the better. First is Levoit. Easy click to empty, 1 point. Detachable bin to clean, 1 point. Can remove the air filter and the entire inside for convenient cleaning. And also just 1 click to disengage the weapon head, so you can clean everything inside. Overall pass for flying colors, the perfect score of 5, and this is an example of what is deserving of S tier. Samsung's cleanup is a bit of a grind. You have to take out the whole bin out and then you can empty the inside. But you can remove the inside and the air filter, so not bad. And a very easy and satisfying click to remove the roller. And same for the floor attachment. Total 6 points and it's going in B. Again, let's do all the Dysons at the same time. Outsized and V11 slide to open, but the V8 you need to pull, and this is a tiny bit harder. Outsized and V11 can both remove the bin with this tab here, but the V8 can't, and that's because you can remove the inside with this tab. As for outsized and V11, you can't take apart the inside, but it is all exposed to clean, so again, 1.5 points. They can all remove the air filter. Dyson V8 and V11 needs a tool to remove the weapon head, while the outsized just needs to lift this and wiggle it out and it all comes out. Much easier, 1 point. So in total, the Dyson outsized beat the others with 5.5 points, while the V8 and V11 got 6 points. outsized goes in A and the rest in B. And now for the sharks. They can both slide to open and can remove the bin even if it's a tiny bit difficult, but you can't remove the inside, so it'll be hard to clean. 2 points. You can remove the air filter like you saw before. You can't remove the weapon head, so you need a tool and a cloth to shove it around to clean like this. Technically, you can remove it with the screws here, but that's a design flaw. Terrible. 2 points. So total is 7 points. Last place. And that's why it's going straight to C. If you're anything like me, then you're about to look through a bunch of other reviews about each weapon to get a consensus from other people. So that's what I did. Low arm fatigue so increases playtime and can reload without unequipping the weapon. 4.3 stars on USA and Canada Amazon, 4.2 stars on Walmart, and 4.5 on their own dev site. Thinks it's a great high performance choice even years after launch. Dislikes its poor battery life on high, while DPS drops significantly on low. Great mobility, great for stairs, but sucks that you need to hold for max DPS. Great for carpets, low airflow, and the fine dust will be exhausted into the air. 4.3 stars on USA and 4.4 on Canada, but 3.8 on Walmart and 3.7 on their own site. Loves its efficient weapon head design and superb maneuverability. Great HEPA filter, removable battery with low noise and hair detangler. 4.4 stars on USA Amazon, but no listing on Canada or Walmart, and 4.6 stars on their website. Easy to empty and it's great as a little portable cleaner. Loves the easy weapon head eject button design. Reloadable batteries with above average game time for its DPS output. Like the premium loadout and high DPS, but the high gold and small intake was disappointing. 4.3 stars on USA and 4.5 on Canada Amazon, and 4.3 on their website. Didn't like the long reload time or requiring you to use wall mount in order to charge. Super effective for dog hair, removable battery, and long play times. 4.3 stars on USA and 4.4 on Canada Amazon, and 3.8 on their site. Slightly better than the blue. Easier to use, but the extension isn't long enough. Appreciates the tangle-free brush roll that stays free of pet hair. Best weapon on carpet maps, long play times with stats and HEPA filtration. Loves the auto DPS adjustments to increase playtime and one button reload animation. 4.6 stars on the USA and 4.5 on Canada Amazon, 4.5 on Walmart, and 4.6 on their site. Loves the reloadable battery but doesn't think that it's much better than other weapons. Highest DPS weapon, amazing for carpet or hard floor maps, but it requires too much strength. 4.5 on USA and 3.6 on Canada, but 4.6 on Walmart and 4.3 on their site. Appreciates its high DPS to cooldown ratio and reloadable batteries. Highest DPS number and low clear time for all maps. So let me know next time if I should cut this. So the final leaderboard after I tallied up all the points for each rank. In last place is Shark Blue with only 14.5 EXP, and followed by Shark Red with 15.5 EXP, just 1 point difference. And honestly, I wouldn't recommend either of these builds, but if you're dead set on this class, go back and see which category matters most to you because they excelled in different areas. Next is the V8 and V11. With 18.5 EXP total and then 22.5 EXP, resulting in 2 separate weapon grades because when it comes to raw power, the V11 edges out. So if you're looking to min-max your DPS, then V11 is your go-to. And now we have the Samsung with 19.5 EXP. I had high hopes because it didn't dominate some categories, but it also not great in other areas like their in-game support. But if you don't really care about that, this is a solid weapon. And now we have the second place, the Dark Horse Levoit with 27 EXP total. Not only is this impressive, but it's also the cheapest. So this is my top recommendation for players looking for a strong but cost-effective build. And finally, the King Dyson outsized with 29 EXP. But be careful. Why Let me show you. Have you ever been vacuuming your wall rug and thought, man, this is tiring, and just left your 17-pound vacuum suction to the wall to the point where you can barely get it off? Or when you're sleepy and you become off balance, so you turn your vacuum on to stop the acceleration of your entire body? I'm 200 pounds. This thing isn't moving. Disclaimer, this is a long fiber rug, so it's exaggerated, but it'll still have crazy suction even on a regular rug. It's gonna be a workout. So what was that saying again? With great power comes great vacuums? Yeah.